I don't know if I pushed the right buttons. Have I pushed the... Shoot, hold on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. This podcast is an Andy Vlogs production in association with All Games Played. You are listening to...
Shh, Mom is talking.
The audio going very well.
Mine.
Nice. Okay. All right. I can't believe we've done it. It is episode 2. We're back. Wow, there's a lot of you guys that really liked that first episode.
Or didn't like it.
Or didn't like it. Well, no one commented, so I guess people liked it. But
Well, people messaged me, so.
people messaged you? Okay, we're gonna bring. I haven't heard anything from anyone. No one said anything to me, except for what was on that page. So I want to hear what people said to you. Not
No.
now. Not now. No. That's what this is about. Whoa, she's keeping some things from me now. Wow. I have to adjust this mic, so sorry about that. Okay, well, today we're going to be talking about parenting. We're going to talk about more of our biological imperatives, men and women, the differences between the two. But first, this week was Mother's Day. So before we jump into it, my name is Andy. I am our, not host, but producer. But we have here our host.
You're the host.
Oh, you're the host.
You're the host.
You're my co-host then.
I'll just. Okay.
Evie doesn't want to sit up, so she's sitting back.
I never want to sit up. This is how I would always eat dinner in high school, and my dad would be like, "Put your leg down." I'm like, "I don't want to."
Okay, I didn't say to put it down. You can keep it up. But before we get ahead of ourselves, you are watching.
Shh, Mom is talking.
Yes, we got it. Happy Mother's Day, mothers out there. You guys are amazing. Thanks so much. Evie, my wife, you're amazing as well. What did I don't think they can hear that. I don't think they can hear that.
Okay.
But, so what did you get for Mother's Day?
From you?
Yeah.
Nothing.
What do you mean, nothing?
What did you get me?
What did I give you?
Nothing.
I gave you something. Do I have to spill it out?
I don't see it. Two of my kids gave me a Mother's Day card. What did you give me?
What do you think I gave you?
I don't know. What do you think? What I think I gave you? I mean, you gave me.
My wife has an addiction, and she thinks she's entitled to her addiction.
You can't move it too much. Now we're blurry.
Or blurry? Well, keep thinking about what I might have given you.
Oh, so there has to be a reason like this. Okay, it's fine now. A holiday for you to buy me this?
No. Keep going.
Andy helped me book a flight to go down to LA with Eleanor just the other day. So I guess that was my Mother's Day present.
I guess. Man.
You stepped on your trash.
This is the difference between men and women. In real time, boys and girls.
Just like our anniversary and just like my birthday almost every year, it's like 8 o'clock at night and it's like, oh, it's our anniversary. Oh, it's your birthday. Happy birthday. I didn't even get
I remember a
little
lot of things
card.
distinctly. It was
What do you
Mother's
mean?
Day morning, and you said you presented to me the flights for
No,
Disneyland.
we booked this like on
And I
Wednesday.
said, just do it.
I'll show you right now. We booked the
I
flight
know,
on
we
Wednesday.
booked it on Wednesday because of complications, but the decision to actually let you go was on Mother's Day.
Oh, I don't remember.
Okay, I'm making faces, and people on the podcast who don't have the video can't see my faces that I made.
JetBlue booking confirmation. We did it on, what is this?
You're too dark.
May 11th. Was that Mother's Day?
No, it was not. Told you.
Mother's Day was the 8th. Yeah, I said Wednesday. It was Wednesday.
I know. It was on Wednesday because we had complications.
Next question.
With it.
Next question.
Okay, so I want to talk about a few things regarding the Mother's Day, and a few things that we've learned from our moms, and some things that we've carried on into our parenting that our parents have, or at least our moms have taught us. So that was something I wanted to, and in the second episode, I wanted to honor my mom, and I wanted, hoping that you would honor your mom, and then I honor you because you're an awesome person. You're amazing. So, with that said, I'm going to go first because I know it may take you a second to think about it. So, spend a second, Emmy, to think about one or two things that your mom did while you grew up that you remember, that you liked. Whatever saying, whatever mantra, whatever perspective, or, I don't know, a little thing that she did, and then we'll share. So, for me, there's always been this selfless, caring mentality that my mom always brought to us. It was always like, and I don't know, she'll never admit it, and maybe she won't ever admit it, but I'll probably talk to her about this, but she always cared about the dumbest things that I'd ever talked to her about. She's always listening. That was huge. It was a listening ear. I'd come up to mom, and I would tell a story, and I would say things that she didn't necessarily care about, understand, or think about, but she was always engaged, and she would always have those types of comments that were engaging, like, oh yeah, oh no way, oh that's horrible. It made you feel special. It made you feel like you were cared, and I think maybe for boys that was more important to have that strong female figure because of the world that you have to go into and fight. You need to have someone back at home who supports you, and not having that as a guy, as a kid growing up and into my adulthood is super important. So that's one thing I really appreciate about mom that I've tried to carry on with the kids, is that when something really matters to, your son, your daughter, you actually take a second and give them your undivided attention. And so that's something that I really appreciate about my mom. I was helping my brother out earlier this week. He needed some help moving some rocks. And so we took two of the boys over, and man, I don't know how many times I said some of these mantras that mom would always say growing up, because kids would argue, they would complain, and it's interesting how there is, how you carry down some of these things. So I think grandma, my mom's mom, used to always say, many hands make work light. And, when we got there to my brother's house, there was a huge mound. It was like 9,000 pounds worth of rocks. And it was daunting. And all the kids were complaining, oh, it's going to be so hard. How are we going to do this? And, my brother and I kept saying over and over, many hands make work light. And that was always something that mom would say. And I think it was something that her mom said. So it's fun that we carried that over. And then
Sounds right. 2
wrongs don't make a right, but 3 wrongs make everything better. Something that, Mom, isn't that what? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The first part's what Mom said.
Where did you get the other half of that?
I'm just joking. No, 2 wrongs never make a right, and that was something that we said. So those are a couple of things that Mom, I really appreciate and love you for, that I think have helped in parenting, because they're really good mantras, but they're also something that you carry from your family, and building a tradition of culture within your family is super important. And those are a few things that I think are super important. So what about you, Abby? What are a few things that your mom might have said? Or done, or
well,
attributes or whatever?
I feel like my mom, and Mom, you can probably correct me, but I feel like she worked like every day when I was little, like elementary school little. But I remember her always being there. Like she was still there. I mean, there were times in the morning when my dad was gone and my mom was gone, and we would have to like get ready for school on our own and get to school on our own. But she was always there, and like making sure that,
From the time that you left school to the time that you came back?
or like, yeah, she was either home when we left or she was home when we got back. When we got back, there was like food, usually soup maybe, waiting for us when we got back.
That's great.
And just making sure that, you know, we were always taken care of. Maybe sometimes there would be like a new outfit or two like laid out on our bed when we would get home from school. And the best presents were new Disney videos that were laid on our bed
that's
next
so
to
fun.
our clothes
That's so adorable.
on VHS. No, just always kind of feeling that she was there is what I want to pass on to our kids.
Cool.
Your
That's
mom
great.
was always home, right?
Yeah, she never worked. But
was
she was
always home.
involved in like PTA and like
Yeah, like
school
I remember my
stuff
mom being there for like concert things, or like when we had like, because in 5th grade, I think, you learn about the California Gold Rush, and we like dressed up as like pioneers, and we had the classroom
Cool.
in California, all the classrooms. So it's like all outdoors, right? And right outside each classroom, there would be like 1 or 2 of those picnic benches. And somehow this teacher would turn that picnic bench into like a big covered wagon.
Oh, that's really cool.
And
That's really cool.
like fake gold would be hidden
like
throughout
that.
the whole playground. And like parents can come to that. And I was in this classroom for 2 years because she did 4th grade and 5th grade.
Wow, you had the same teacher?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it was
cool.
weird. But like that's just one thing I remember my mom being at. And like I said, like all those concerts and stuff.
That's great. Great. Well, we love you, Mom. We love you, Granny, Nana. So, with that said, I wanted to transition into kind of the main point of today's podcast, and that's about parenting,
What the heck?
right? Parenting, honestly, is not easy. There's no real rule book for it. There's a lot of literature, though, and this was actually something that I was interested in pursuing when I was in college. I was thinking about being a teacher, so understanding how to teach kids and you know, the psychology behind it was something that was interesting to me, and so I pursued it and took a number of classes. So, you know, in that sphere of science, there are different parenting styles, and there's one of them that, you know, recently in the Atlantic, I think it's the Atlantic I read, a very, very common parenting style in America or Western nations is actually turning out to be not so helpful, or at least from a developmental standpoint, isn't the best way to actually raise children. And we'll get to that. But what I'd like to do here is kind of talk about a few, you know, different parenting styles or different methods that we took this week for, you know, teaching or parenting an 11-year-old as opposed to teaching a 2-year-old, almost a 3-year-old. And so, Evie, I'll give you a second here to think about it, but I wanted to talk about, you know, whether or not the way that we're parenting these kids is the right way. Because I firmly believe that we should parent a kid based on the kid, and it shouldn't be equal. There shouldn't be an equal or equality of parenting in the household, because everyone's different. Mm-hmm. Everyone plays different roles. And I think those are super important to a cohesive family, you know, unit. But what I'm saying is, like, for one kid, you don't like yell at them, right? You don't, you know, you don't promote negativity, and then the other is positivity. No, but I think the way that you speak to them or you talk to them, you take a different approach. And so I'm going to give a couple of examples here, and you know, hopefully by then you can give your example. So I'm actually going to move here because I'm going to get a little bit closer, and hopefully you can get a little bit closer because the light behind us is kind of hot. There we go. If we block out that light right there, it makes our faces a little bit lighter. So anyway, what I was saying here is, so Eleanor, this could be bad. I could be corrected, but I've treated her very, very differently than the boys. So Eleanor is my crown jewel. I always call her that. She's, it could be because I didn't have a daughter or a sister growing up, and being around a girl now for as much time as I have at this age is something that I've never experienced. And so any instance where there is conflict, I will always, I won't swoop in, but I will always take her side. So this this could be bad.
You are right. You hit your brother in the face? You are right, Eleanor.
No,
she goes like this to Doherty sometimes and just.
No, I don't necessarily say that is good. I'll definitely provide her some feedback. And this died.
Nicholas is here.
My button died. Is it not? Oh,
button. It's got the button.
Okay, there we go. I want to move to. Okay, maybe we'll leave it here until I can fix this. So yeah, when there's conflict, because she's the youngest, it's easy for the boys to gang up on her. So obviously I want to be there to protect her, but I think there's a little bit more to it, because what I'm trying to do, I think in the long term, is help provide her a good idea of what a masculine man should represent. And, I don't like the idea or that I want my kids to, I don't really tolerate the idea that you can treat girls like you would treat your brother boys. Mm-hmm. You should treat them different. Even though when they play and they goof, she'll try to be as rough and tumble as they are. She's going to be a tomboy for sure. Mm-hmm. But, helping her embrace her femininity, I think, is super important. This is where it might be controversial, because there's a lot of, there's ideas out there that men and women are the same, and they should be treated the same. And I don't necessarily agree. I don't agree. And I won't go into that per se, but there was a conflict within the family. Eleanor slighted one of the brothers, and I said, give Eleanor everything. Give her everything. And I base that off of the idea that, in my opinion, I think little girls, their discretion, their choice making, I think is somewhat more pure than what boys are, at least in my estimation. And this could be totally anecdotal, but she doesn't try to lie. She doesn't try to steal. She doesn't try to, make it unfair. Obviously she's nihilist, or she's self-centered, but she is way more privy to share with the boys than to take away from the boys. And so when the boys have something that she wants, I always want to make it apparent that you should share, no matter if it's yours or not. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my motivation behind that. What do you think, Evie? When there's a conflict with the boys, especially with Theodore and Eleanor, because they're the closest in age, how do you deal with their conflict?
I guess I'm also like Theodore, just leave her alone. And I leave it at that. But with Eleanor, I feel like I talk to her a little bit more than just, hey, stop. I'm like, well, what happened? Why did your brother do that? Why did you do that to your brother? You can't do that to your brother because something else. But I catch myself saying that too when it's like Tono against Doherty. Kind of like trying to figure out like checklists, like who did what? Why did you do that? What did he do back to you? But
because
I guess we're both I guess trying to stand up for Eleanor.
Yeah, because the boys are starting to become self-centered, nihilistic, and selfish. Mm. And when they fight, they internally, I don't think they premeditate it, but they are self-interested. So when they're playing basketball, they always want to win. They always want to like score over each other. And they like that feeling of competition. Eleanor's not like that. And so I'm not going to treat the boys the same. If there's a conflict, I'm always going to rule on the side of Eleanor. Because, historically, the boys have been they have been they have purposely treated her poorly because of this, that, and the other.
But if Eleanor really messes with them and made someone cry because she really hurt them.
But she won't go up to them and just fight them.
It's usually when they're play fighting or...
Then she'll say, let's fight. But
she'll say, let's fight. Yeah, that's like just play and pretend. But there are some times when Doherty's just watching TV. And Eleanor, like, wants to play. And so maybe this is her way of trying to get his attention.
Yeah.
That she'll, like, pinch him or scratch him because she's trying to play.
She wants, yeah.
And they're not wanting to.
That. I think when it comes to attention, girls, they seek for that affirmation. This thing is not bending. They seek for that affirmation, that confirmation more than boys. But boys always say, Mom, look, Mom, look, Mom, look. So I don't know. I think it's, I think it's
when my dad was here, Eleanor was like, Grandpa, look at me. She was just like, it was like Mad TV. Where he's like, hey, look. Or what does he say? What does Stuart? And then Eleanor literally just like jumped in place. And I was like, yeah, Eleanor. My grandpa or my dad was like, yeah, good job.
Yeah. So you obviously have to take a different approach when it comes to each kid. And that hiccuped. I hope, darn it. Hope it doesn't do weird. Okay. So each approach is different. And it's because, I'm very observant with the kids. Like Antonio, man, that kid, I always treat him like my parenting style with that kid is so much more harsh than the others. Nicholas, he's...
Middle child.
Yeah, he's got the middle child syndrome, but he's at this point where he wants to impress people, right?
Tono?
He's gotten a little bit of talent when it comes to certain things that he likes, and he wants to show it off, and he wants to be able to have that dopamine, chemical reaction when he does something good in front of others. He has that competitive nature, and so Theodore isn't necessary. Theodore's usually on the defense, and so I treat them so much more different. When Antonio causes someone to cry, I know that it's premeditated. He does it because he wants to show his strength or something, whatever he's trying to do. But normally when he's not in that competitive nature, he's such a sweet kid, and I'm hands off with him. And so I will treat him so much more harsh than, I would treat someone else. Nicholas is absolutely not like that. He's at this point where he's so independent. He knows the rules. He has broken the rules in the past, and he knows how it makes him feel. He knows how dad reacts and mom reacts.
Oh, no, he'll just look at me. Like, I forgot what it was the other day. I think I was in the kitchen. I was somewhere upstairs. And I think I was looking down, or I looked annoyed or something. And then Nicholas, like, okay, come on, you guys. All right, you go, go clean that. You go do that.
Yeah.
And sometimes he'll be like, Mom's tired or Mom's whatever. So he definitely...
That's what's amazing about Nick. And I let him play games.
He's the oldest child.
Well, he's the oldest child, but he gets stuff done. And I don't need to do much. The rule is we don't play games. But if I catch him playing games, I'm not going to get upset. Because I know he does his reading. He cleans his room. He gets everything done. And he's our star, scholar.
And really, for him, there's nothing else to do besides drawing, reading, and playing games. Yeah. I mean, he should probably start practicing the piano again. It's been a while.
Yeah, I need to get him back into that. But once the summer starts, I think that's the thing is this parenting style that I want to talk about here that we'll start to introduce is a little bit about that. It's like parents. The idea here, it's called intense parenting. It's also known as helicopter parenting, but it's this idea where you are trying to impose what your ideal child is on them. And it also has a few other things. So I wanted to read this here real quick. So in this article, it talks about some studies from some psychologists. And if you want, I can put the thing down in the description. But what intense parenting means is supervised, enriching playtime, frequent conversations about thoughts and feelings, patient, well-reasoned explanations of household rules, and extracurricular, lots and lots of extracurriculars. It goes on to say that yeah, so that's the basic definition of this. So it's like helicopter parenting. It's like you have a super regimented schedule. Everything needs to go on track. You make sure that there's lots of extracurricular time, and you supervise, and you're there for every aspect of that child's day.
I thought helicopter parenting was just making sure they don't get hurt.
Well, that's a part of it. That's a part of it. It talks about in here. It says, I'm going to read a little bit more. It says, relating to like the socioeconomic status of the family, if inequality is very high, meaning that means from the parents' perspective, it becomes more important for the kids to not feel left behind. So if in the, it's kind of like a subconscious thing. It's like if the parents see that the community that you're in, or in the school that your children are in, if there's a lot of inequality, subconsciously they're thinking that it's lower quality or poor education that they're receiving. So then they become way more like into that child's life. So it goes on to say, and so parents will assume a parenting style that is more intense and that is more success oriented. Middle class parents engage in a more intense parenting style, while lower income counterparts have more of a hands-off approach. So you see that where you've got your kids that are in all of these extracurriculars. You have them in dance, you have them in piano, you have them in singing. They're joining,
Not
all
so
of the
much
little
stuff.
things every week at the library. You take them to the gym with you. You have this, teacher mama situation where like you're the teacher and you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, so how do you feel about this? And you're like you're over scrutinizing little behaviors that happen, or maybe you overreact to situations where the children may be more emotional or not. So that's at least my understanding after reading this article of what an intense parenting style is.
I'm still confused.
I think the opposite of this would be a hands-off, more of a what do they call that? Free-range child parenting approach. What's nice here is in Utah there are laws, supporting free-range children, meaning that you can't get in trouble if you let your kids walk around, at young ages. Whereas in some areas of the country, you can't. You have to be supervised. You can't let your kids out, or else it could be considered loitering or whatever. I don't know if it's trespassing, but there's a lot of stories that I've read where parents have had child protective services call on them when their kids have just been out in the park unsupervised.
How old were you when you went to like a store without your parents?
I think it was like the 5th grade, 4th grade. When I started skateboarding, I would skateboard to the store. I would go down the hill past the temple, and I would go down to either, Shopko, Food for Less, or I'd go into BYU, and I was in like the 4th or 5th grade.
I had to have been in like the 1st or 2nd grade when I would walk to 7-Eleven with Gabby and Lucy.
Yeah. Now, where I lived, it was quite a distance to be able to get to the nearest store. Because it was the suburb that we're in, or at least not suburb, but like the neighborhood that we're in, the closest store was like a couple miles. But when you're in a higher, more densely populated neighborhood, you've got those corner stores that are really fun that you go to. But you're saying that when you were like in the 1st grade, you'd go?
Yeah, it was probably like...
Was it like once in a while, or was it regular? Like you do it all the time?
Well, I feel like we went all the time. It was probably like a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks away. I guess not too far.
So what do you think? If you think about it here, put it into perspective. So if you've got a kid who's, got all of their time regimented, they wake up, they've got their morning regiment. Then you've got mom or dad, whoever's taking care of them, or nanny, has them do from, 10 o'clock to noon, some art, right? You go into art on Mondays, and art is like you pull out their playroom, they've got their art, blah blah blah. You're watching them. Okay, it's 12 o'clock. Let's go eat. You're hovering over them eating, making sure that they eat.
So it's not good to have a schedule?
Well, I'm just putting into perspective here 2 different points of view. So, and this is the way that I see it: the helicopter parent, intense parents, where like you're heavily supervising everything. You're making sure that they're, when they draw a circle or a squiggle, then you stop them and say, okay, what did that make you feel? This is the extreme.
Okay,
How
yeah,
does
that
make you feel?
sounds extreme.
Why did you do it this way? But there's like you could say there's a spectrum of this, but giving the extremes might be helpful to paint this picture. So then, they eat lunch. You have to eat every single thing. You're not getting out of your chair, or your seat until you finish eating all your food. There's these demands, these rules. Then, okay, after lunch, we're going to go to the library and we're going to book club. And then after book club, we're going to go to our gymnastics. And while you're in gymnastics, mom's going to go to the gym. And then dinner time, dad's going to come home. And then, then it's piano, then it's this, then it's that.
I don't see a problem in any of that. But if you're saying that while the parents are doing this with their kids and they are like criticizing and pointing out just every single little thing that these kids are doing wrong, is it wrong only that they're pointing out, or good things and bad things that the parents are pointing out throughout their daily schedule?
None of these things that they're doing, like these activities that they're doing, is bad. It's the heavily supervised parenting style where mom and dad are there every moment of the time to make sure that the kids don't fail or to make sure the kids do it the way that mom does it. That's what I'm saying is the parenting style.
Okay. So if I were those 2 hours that Eleanor loves to play Play-Doh and sand some days, usually between like 10 and noon, if I were to sit next to her every time and be like, that's not how you roll it out, or
if you were making sure that she didn't drop it anytime. Oh, you're dropping it again. Or, if you don't listen to me,
Why did you look at me? I had one more sneeze. You're so annoying. Okay. I don't know anyone that's like that.
I'm just saying this is the extreme, but there's plenty of this is the most common parenting style.
Yeah. So
I'm giving a very, very extreme to paint my picture, because the very extreme is obviously no one's doing like that. But there are parents out there, because this is very common, who do this, who oversee everything, and they make sure that they're...
And why do they do that? Is it because they were like that?
I don't know.
You
little? Tell me. What do you think it is? I think I know what it is. At least I have some suspicion.
Sounds very suspicious.
No, I want you to... why are people...
Hold on.
Why are
That's
people...
from Ratatouille, when the chef says... But he says suspicious weird.
So why are parents parenting like this? Why do you think?
Because they want their kids to be perfect.
That could be true.
And
but elaborate more. I mean, every parent wants.
They want them to be super. Yeah, that's what they want. I feel like if parents are like that, then like the long like goal ahead, I guess, is for them to be like Ivy League or something, like number one in everything. That's probably why they do it.
Well, I'm here to tell you that science states that it's bad. It's bad. It's causing children to be depressed. Okay, this is what it says. Many children surely benefit from being raised like this. This is talking about free range. Concerted cultivation conserve that. Concerted cultivation can serve them well later in life, teaching them how to manage their time and assert their individuality. But heavily involved parenting can at the same time stunt kids' sense of self-reliance, and overcommitted after-school schedules can leave them exhausted.
Yeah.
Also, there is some evidence that parents who overdo it increase the risk of their children growing up to be depressed and less satisfied with life. And on the parent side, an intense ideal can lead parents, particularly mothers, to fear that they aren't doing enough to get their to give their child the best future possible.
Yeah, maybe they didn't have a good childhood or the best life, and the only way for them to make sure that their kid gets that is, by pushing them to do everything and to do it all perfectly.
Yeah, I think you've got definitely a point there. Is that
I mean, because I want to push our kids, but I want to do it in a way that won't make them go crazy. Like Nicholas, sometimes when he feels overwhelmed, like we see it. He tells us.
we back off?
Yeah.
It's because we've let him discover what that threshold is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's super duper interesting. So you think a parent's sense of like perfection, or at least giving the children the best future, is kind of the premise that they base it on. And I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's what this author says, based on what they read.
Maybe they don't know that they're pushing them too hard.
I absolutely think they do.
Like
But-
those "I hate you because I love you"
Yeah,
type
could
things.
be, yeah. Not necessarily hate you, but I do this, the tough love kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's a couple of things. This ideology has, I think it's been perpetuated, if I can get there. I think this has been perpetuated because of the change in our culture and society.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Not that these changes are bad. I disagree with them. As you guys know, I have lots of opinions. But I think there's a few things. One, neighborhoods are becoming less communal.
Mm-hmm.
Neighborhoods have less sense of a community now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, people don't know their neighbors. People don't know who's across the street. People have never talked to anyone around them.
Right.
There's this sense of individuality, separation when you're living in real life in your neighborhood. And people are gaining more of a community online through online groups, people that they follow, entertainment that they consume. That's where they're getting the sense of community, where they're interacting with the entertainment that they're watching.
Well, not just the entertainment, but like you could easily live in a neighborhood with a bunch of old people and you're the only young family. So you're going to have to go out and go on these groups online or go somewhere.
What I'm saying is people don't even try to meet their neighbors.
Okay,
That's the problem.
Yeah, so then
in
just
my- in
leave it
my
at that.
estimation.
People just don't want to talk to other people.
Yeah.
Their neighbors.
So that's leading to this idea of so that's one thing. They don't see any other method of rearing children because they're not interacting with other peers that raise children, whether they are older who could tell them, this is how I raise my kids. They only see their perspective, and their perspective is whatever they see and they consume, right? You just admitted to it earlier that there was a blogger that you watched that told you about this method that they use. That's how you consume, that you get ideas for teaching parents. It wasn't necessarily hanging out with the neighbors per se, but I'm not saying that it's bad or good. I'm just saying that some of the news or information you get is from others so we're disconnected. We're no longer in a community.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that's the case here because we are heavily involved in our church and we know our neighbors.
Yeah.
We know our neighborhood. So we're absolutely outside of it. That's why I think our children are different. Our children don't have depression. Our children don't have these issues that have arisen in their teenage years because of whatever. So, less communal. We don't know our neighbors. The second thing is, I think a two-parent household, a two-parent income household, has absolutely led to this. Because mom is now working, and she's not primarily raising her children. Mm-hmm. And the majority of women are, nurturing their children and teaching them day to day, regardless of how much time, right? The majority of them are going to be. And so I can totally see where parents, especially mothers, have this sense of not giving their children enough to succeed. That's where it's coming from. Because they're now pushing what expectations are on them, like what they gave on themselves to go to, be a go-getter, go, get a career, get a degree or whatever. They're expecting that on their children, again, which isn't bad. But it's also caused because they're living in that situation, they don't have time to be with their children all the time.
Right.
And so anytime that they are with their kids, they over schedule them.
Oh.
And third, kids don't roam neighborhoods anymore. In some communities, there is active legislation to prevent children from free roaming their neighborhood.
So if they don't roam around, they don't meet new friends?
No.
And those new friends, their parents don't get introduced to each other?
If you're overscheduling your children in regimented like classroom settings all the time, whether it's sending them to daycare, whether it's putting them into these extracurricular activities, and they're not able to independently choose their own time, they are independently choose who they roam with and explore, it'll absolutely stunt them. Absolutely.
But they're still in that group setting where they meet new friends, and then the parents are there to drop them off or pick them up, and they meet each other there.
But they didn't choose it. That's the difference.
But they still become friends, and then they're, I guess, not your neighbor, but the parents still find a new adult friend.
That's true. That's better of an outcome for adults than kids.
But the kids are friends too.
I know, but
and
they only see them one time a day.
Then they might become friends and see each other more.
But what I'm talking about is children who live near each other go out like we let our kids do for 3 or 4 hours unsupervised. It is so healthy. Those kids are learning and growing. They're learning where the edge is. They're learning within their own peers. And this is backed by tons of family health science. So that when you create these boundaries that are very malleable, kids will group together, create hierarchies, and they will learn how to socialize and interact with each other. If you send a child to a classroom where it's very regimented, it's a very finite time, and you pull them out of that, and it's irregular, that doesn't help, because they're not exploring, they're not learning from them. They're being heavily supervised by their parents. Does that make sense?
Kind of, but it's kind of, so then you want your kids to not be in extracurricular so they can be free outside and learn and grow a certain way, or you can have your kids in extracurricular activities and learn and grow in a different way. So I see good in both. I don't see the problem in that.
The problem is what this article said. Children who are in that parenting style, like their parents use the intense parenting style, are more likely to be stunted in their teenage years.
So think about,
be more likely to have depression.
Think of Nicholas then, and then think of Tono and Doherty. Tono and Doherty, Nicholas, completely different.
That's fine.
So then what should we do? Nicholas isn't meeting and playing with other friends like Tono and Doherty are.
Oh, he absolutely is.
Nicholas?
He has. So Nicholas, ever since we moved here, Nicholas has been putting his feelers out. He used to run around and go in the what is it called? The field and walk around and do things. And then the fact that he's come home and spent a lot more time at home has been entirely his own decision. And it hasn't been because of external forces saying, Nicholas, we don't accept you in our group. He has had the exploration. He has had the opportunity to put his feelers out there, to meet people, to see his external forces, and then realize, I don't necessarily want to do that all the time. He'll go out, he'll exercise, and then he'll come back in. And he is completely independent, and he chooses whatever he does. And it's up to him. He comes home and he'll read.
But he's not going outside and exploring and making new friends like you.
He did.
Well, he doesn't do that all the time.
He still does. And that's where we need to come in. And that's where we do come in. And we say, get out of the house. Because he'll sit and look at his monitor, his computer, and he'll sketch for like 4 hours straight.
Well, I do yell at him to go outside.
Up to him. We have said nothing about that. That's why I haven't pushed piano so hard. because I want it to be something for him, exploration.
Tell them
for
how much
him.
money he made selling his art.
He sells his art like $10 to $20 a page, and he sold like 5 or 6 of them.
No.
Yeah.
He sells them for like $2 a page.
He said $10. No, we're not gonna get him in here. That is so healthy for him to explore. Children that have that are taught the boundaries, you teach them at first the boundaries. Then you reinforce that rule by showing them the consequences. You don't yell at them. You also help them and you parent them according to kind of their personality and their characteristics. And then once they get older and they know those boundaries, you let them free. But you don't overschedule them. You can still have those extracurricular activities. But like putting them into science camp and engineering camp and math camp and basketball and baseball.
It's how to keep them busy in the summer and to learn and make new friends. They can
let him
be
break
free.
His leg. Let him break his own leg.
I think they can do both.
Helped him learn. Well, not Nick, but kids learn their boundaries. Absolutely. So much. Let them get hurt. But immediately swoop in and help them. Don't make them feel dumb, but making them learn their boundaries, whether they're extreme or not. I mean, don't let them like climb on roofs and build huts and trees and like. But like what they do in the field is super like developmentally important to a kid.
Right.
Because they create like a little like tribe, and they're like, we're gonna build a make believe house in the fall. And there's this huge field next to our house. It's uncultivated. It's city property. It's where the power lines are. But there's just junk there. And they explore. And we tell them, do not go past our site. Do not go into the ravine. And
do not pick up glass.
Don't pick up glass. They've been like creating like a little hovel. They built like a little foundation. They've got like a cooking pot and a chair, and all the kids in the neighborhood do it. And Nick gets involved, and they bring big logs, and they separate their territory and their property. And it's amazing. It's amazing to watch them divide into hierarchies. And if you keep your children from that, I think it's detrimental. We're seeing it. I mean, kids are, especially since the pandemic. That's what bothered me about the pandemic is we forced everyone inside. It kept kids away from their peers and from them, like creating little mini micro societies and hierarchies, and then pushing the boundaries of each society. It's super duper important. So that's just my thought. And again, I ranted. We're 40 minutes into this, so we didn't talk about gender roles again, but that's okay.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. You guys are awesome. And
thank you so much for listening to
Mom is talking.
Like, subscribe, and write a review on any of the sites that you are listening to this on. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and check out some of our other content. Join us in next episode. This is Andy and Evelyn signing out.